John Brady.
Thanks, Carla. Minister, the collapse of Carillion certainly didn't come as much of a surprise to myself and many other people who've seen this coming down the tracks. It has directly impacted on two schools in my own constituency, Ravenswell and Coláiste Raithín, and I'm delighted that so many parents, teachers and pupils travelled in from Wicklow, from Bray, to be in the public gallery from Coláiste Raithín to hopefully hear some positive responses from yourself, Minister, and news as to when they can move in. Minister, the school in which Coláiste Raithín are currently in is totally unsuitable, hence why a new building was built, bringing an end to a 23-year battle since 1995 to get the new school. Minister, it is totally unsuitable where they are currently. They are operating from 3 different locations within Bray, Minister. Pupils having to travel from one building to a different building in different parts of the town. In September, Minister, in the hope and the knowledge that a new school was forthcoming, they took on board a full extra class of first-year pupils, adding to the overcrowding in which they currently have. Minister, it is totally unsustainable. They also took on 2 additional subjects on the school curriculum, Minister, 2 new teachers. They don't have the facilities now to actually teach those subjects. They were hoping and had been promised that they, Coláiste Raithín, would be in their new school, which is fully complete, Minister, in October, November, December, and the latest date was the 22nd of January. Minister, all dates have come and gone. Minister, when I asked you initially about this, you said there would be no delays. Now we're saying we just don't know. Minister, I don't give a damn about what discussions, what negotiations, what legalities are going on, and I'm sure the teachers, the pupils and indeed their parents don't care either. What we want from you here today, Minister, is a specific date when the keys will be handed over to Coláiste Raithín and St Philomena's to bring an end to the 23-year battle that they've been engaged in. Minister, hopefully you will be able to provide assurances that they will get the keys sooner rather than later.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the deputies who contributed, and indeed many more. I know Andrew Doyle, Simon Harris, Pat Deering, Michael Darcy, Paul Keogh, many others have raised this with me, so I don't in any way undervalue the concern, and I'd like to welcome the school that's here. I think every one of these schools is very important to their local community. The reason they're being rebuilt in this way is because they are in serious need. The position that I'm glad to get the chance to come to the House to clarify the position. The compulsory liquidation of Carillion that was announced on the 15th of January, it certainly is regrettable. Inspired Spaces, which is a joint venture between Carillion and the Dutch Infrastructure Fund, DIF, was awarded the contract for the school's Bundle 5 PPP in 2016. Inspired Spaces is the PPP company responsible for the construction, finance, operation and maintenance of the 5 schools and 1 further education college included in the programme. Those buildings are approximately 90% complete, with 2 almost ready for occupation. I'd like to reassure Deputy Donnelly and others that there is best international practice in the way that this bundle has been put together. The contract includes detailed provisions that apply in the event of liquidation of a consortium member or an entity under the contract to ensure that the project proceeds to completion. This means that following the liquidation of Carillion, DIF is now required to intervene with the approval of the project funders to ensure that the project is completed to the satisfaction of the state. DIF has confirmed that resolution of the situation is its top priority. It is currently working to put in place a rectification plan to ensure that the schools are completed as soon as possible. The NDFA, which is part of the NTMA, is responsible for the management of these projects on behalf of the Department of Education and Skills. It is working to ensure that taxpayers' interests are protected, that the schools are delivered as quickly as possible through the implementation of the contract provisions. I can assure the deputies that this issue is being treated with the utmost urgency by both my department and the NDFA. Officials in my department are in constant contact with the NDFA, who are in turn closely liaising with the DIF. I've met with the NDFA and I'm satisfied that everything possible is being done at this time to ensure the schools can be delivered in as timely a manner as possible. I wish to acknowledge the very understandable concern of the school communities and all concerned with the projects in relation to the current lack of certainty surrounding dates for completion of the schools. The outcome of the ongoing process will provide greater clarity in relation to likely completion dates. While it had been initially hoped that an interim solution would be agreed and genuine efforts were made to achieve that, that has not been possible to date, and now a more detailed rectification plan is being finalised by DIF in consultation with its lenders. This comprehensive rectification plan will address, among other things, both the completion of the construction and the provision of services over the lifetime of the PPP contract. Importantly, this rectification plan does not place any financial obligations on the state. Its implementation is a matter for the private sector parties. While I cannot be definitive on the timelines for the agreement and implementation of the rectification plan, it is a feature of this PPP contract and PPP contracts more generally that there are legal, contractual and financial imperatives for the PPP company and the funders to deliver the buildings within the shortest possible timeframe. I might say that no money has been expended other than some site costs in relation to these 6 schools, which were estimated to be 100 million bundle. So 90% completion has been entirely funded by the parties involved, and they will not get a licence agreement which provides the payment of a universal charge each year for the next 25 years unless the schools are handed over so that they can be occupied and used by the pupils. So this is a strong position which the state is in. A key advantage of the PPP model is that the construction and funding risk is transferred to the private partner. That is why DIF, rather than the state, is now responsible for ensuring completion of the schools. This is also why we have 6 buildings which are close to completion, which indeed are in state ownership, but without any payment yet being made, other than, as I say, for the ones.
Back to you, Minister, for the balance.
Okay.
Minister, this ultimately is going to end up in a protracted legal case. Liquidations do not end well, and this will be no different. So, the teachers, pupils and parents are now at the mercy of a potential legal case, but also at the mercy of banks in Tokyo and indeed Germany. And Minister, you would be well aware that a PPP for 25 years, it's only at the end of that PP that the state will actually take control of that actual asset. So I think you need to clarify that. So Minister, we cannot wait for all of that to happen. I'm asking you a number of specific questions and I want answers. What arrangements are you going to put in place? What contingency arrangements, Minister? Will you look at emergency legislation to ensure that the pupils, teachers can get into those schools immediately? Coláiste Raithín, Minister, just needs certification. Will you ensure that there is a fast tracking of that certification process to ensure that Coláiste Raithín can move in? Minister, will you look at putting in place a caretaker maintenance arrangement for Coláiste Raithín and the other schools that are complete to ensure that they can move in? And just a final point, a very important point. Coláiste Raithín, Minister, is fully equipped. Tables, chairs, whiteboards, the full lot. There is fears that the suppliers of those materials haven't been paid and that they will go into the school, like they have in others, to withdraw those materials. Will you ensure that the suppliers are fully paid and that the materials will not be stripped from the schools, adding to the delays that the schools will face?
A few points. First is to reassure Deputy Byrne that DIF has been mandated by the funders to put together the rectification plan. It's been put together as fast as possible, so there's no question of funders anywhere, if you like, not being interested in this. To answer the point, are we at the mercy of funders? That's not the case. Funders will not get their money unless they complete and hand over the building and get the licence agreement. They have paid the money, not the state. So the only way in which they will get their money back is by handing over the buildings and completing these. And that's why there is such urgency on the part of DIF and the funders to get this rectification plan in place. I just have to clarify to Deputy's misunderstanding. Subcontractors do not have a contract contract with the state. The subcontractors have a contract with the provider, and the state is not stepping in to underwrite the obligations of the provider, because under the PPP contract, it is DIF that holds the responsibility, which is set out in the contract, to complete these schools, and they will not be paid until they complete them. The issue of PPP reviews, I mean, in our situation, less than 20% of schools, 17% of completions has been done by PPP. Any state will have a mixture of projects. I'm always open to look at the merits of cases, and I think the DEPR is undertaking a review of PPPs. But you know, and so is the CNAG, and you know, we're open to that. But in terms of this, the concentration on this has to be to get the contract to work and to get this completion, as is the legal obligation. The funders will only get their money if they can come up with the handing over the schools completed to the proper standard. Then they will get their licence agreement. Without completing that, they do not get their licence agreement, and the state will not be paying them any money or anyone involved. I think that's really the important thing. We must use the power of the contract, which protects people, to ensure that it is those who took the legal responsibility here complete their work. And I can assure you that the NDFA will be vigorously pursuing that. I think it's in everyone's interest, most of all those who have funded and built this project, that they do get to that completion point as quickly as possible. And to be fair, that is what they have indicated they are seeking to do. But I can assure the Deputy that I will keep a very close eye on this. I can understand the concerns, and I will work with the NDFA to secure this outcome as quickly as possible.